Back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button and the like button, and please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Thursday's edition of the DCEU Daily. I'm terribly sorry there was no DCEU Daily yesterday. Didn't realise anyone would notice, and a few of you did. Thank you for noticing. Yes, my sister and my nieces and nephews are over right now, so lots of interruptions, lots of time being taken up. So if you see anyone poking through that window or knocking on, or you hear any knocks on the door, we are going to be trying to be very, very focused and ignoring the noise around us, because this is going to be my most frank and honest edition of the DCEU Daily ever since I started nearly 3 years ago. So today we are going to be talking about and listening to Jason Kilar, the president of HBO Max, talking about how he feels HBO Max are doing in an interview and reacting to comparisons from Disney. Now, I've listened to this interview. It's very good. I have a lot of time for Jason Kilar. So let's listen to this interview. And afterwards, I'm going to react what Ray Fisher has said about Jeff Johns. And I'm going to be very frank and honest about what he said, which in truth is very, very little. So let's listen to Jason Kilar speak about how he thinks the future of HBO Max will play out, and also how he feels how they're doing ever since they launched.
It's just been about 2 months since HBO Max launched. Are you worried that it missed its shot to really gain consumers in this very crowded streaming landscape?
Not at all, not at all. And I say it, Julia, because if you take a look at the last 60 days, by any measure, from my perspective, we're in a really good position. If you take a look at what last year we thought and hoped we would be at the end of 2020, which is 36 million HBO and HBO Max subscribers. We just announced a couple of weeks ago that we're actually north of 36 million already, and obviously the number's going up every day.
But there is this question, though, of whether or not, as some traditional HBO subscribers cut the cord, you're adding others. You had about 4 million signups for HBO Max. Putting that in contrast to Disney, which had 10 million signups for its first day, Peacock, which has already had 10 million signups, are those numbers just way lower than what you need to be competitive in this landscape?
No, I think if you actually dive deeper in terms of apples to apples comparison, certainly on the NBC side of things, I think you'll see a bit of a different story. But more importantly, in terms of your question about Disney Plus, keep in mind Disney is a 100-year surgically precise brand with regards to families with kids under the ages of 9, generally speaking. So they did exactly what they should have done, and kudos to them. Ours is a very different journey. I'd argue in success, ours is a bigger outcome because we are really going after all members of the family and all individuals. And so the opportunity is bigger, but it does mean that our journey is going to be different because we don't have a 100-year surgically precise brand around families, specifically with kids under the age of 9.
But you do have the brand of HBO, and HBO meant something very specific, and then there became all these different versions of HBO. HBO Go.
It's a very interesting and honest response to the Disney Plus comparison, because at the end of the day, as he says, they have got a 100-year surgically focused family brand in Disney. And it's not just that they've got the animation, they've got the MCU, they've got Star Wars. There's so much to pull people in. Now, you could argue that HBO Max have got DC and other things like that. But as he says, it's going to take them a longer time to gain the popularity and success that Disney had overnight. He's talking about longevity. He's talking about Disney Plus at the moment being a fashionable thing, Disney being the most popular studio out there right now, so everyone's kind of jumping on that platform. But he's talking about a 5-year plan. What he's trying to say is we are putting art first rather than just saying, hey, we've got all this fun stuff, come and watch us. So the HBO Max plan, the AT&T Warner Media plan is about longevity. It's about quality over quantity, and I think that's very important. And it's important to understand his answers are honest and genuine, because these business people don't BS in these kind of interviews. It's very, very important that they don't insult the consumer and the business community who are watching these interviews.
Oh, now, Max. And a lot of confusion, and I know that's one reason you're really trying to elevate the HBO Max brand in particular, but what do you want that brand to mean, and how do you clarify that when there's all that noise about HBO and what these different versions are?
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, we're leaning into HBO. And to immediately answer your second question, quality is the answer. We want people, when they think of HBO Max, when they think of all the things that they can get from HBO Max, we want people to think that, wow, these stories, they're a cut above. And that really plays into the legacy and the history of HBO. I couldn't be prouder of the work that they've done. And then obviously things like Warner Brothers and DC, Harry Potter. We're talking about a nearly 100-year legacy of quality, and that's exactly what we're going to do to lean into it. I do want to say something, Julia, that you raised, which is, I think in hindsight, a mistake, which is we did have a number of brands in the market that were ultimately confusing, which is HBO Now and HBO Go. We have sunsetted those brands and those services, so now we are left with, rightly so, HBO Max and HBO. So it's a much simpler proposition for consumers.
I wonder if you can help clarify how the funnel works in your view for how...
As I said, they're normally very, very honest in these kind of business assessment kind of interviews, and he was there. He did admit there was too many HBO platforms confusing the narrative. So, as he says, they've sunsetted those platforms, so now everybody understands what's going on now, and it's all about HBO Max, because I think all those platforms are available on HBO Max, if I'm correct. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. So, listen, when I look at HBO Max, I see a platform with a great varied base of content. I think it's very competitive already with Netflix and with Prime Video. And I feel as the time goes ahead, and when the pandemic is over and they can make more and more of their originals, I think they've made some already, and a couple will be available, and I kind of like the projects they're green lighting as well. This is going to be a very, very competitive platform. But you see, the media are only interested in figures. And because HBO Max's figures are solid, but not fantastic right now, everyone's going to jump on it. But there is a concerted campaign from the media who are friends with Disney to report anything they see just a little bit negative from Warner Brothers, Warner Media and AT&T. Because they're scared of Warner Brothers. They're scared of Warner Media under AT&T now, because they know this is a company with a plan, with a good plan, and it scares them and it intimidates them.
You get in front of the customer, get the customer to subscribe, and then retain. I know I'm finding at home, we'll often look for a specific piece of content. We'll do a search. We'll see what service it's available on, if we already have it free or basically already paid for, and then go there. It's kind of like a marketplace approach. How do you play within that marketplace? What's working and going to work?
Well, ultimately, we have to do two things. Like, the first and most important thing is that we have to have incredible stories that people are seeking out and very much want to engage themselves in. So whether that's Succession or whether that's Perry Mason or Watchmen or Insecure, Love Life, Harry Potter, you name it, like all of these things, we have to do a great job leaning into the stories. So that's the first and most important thing we need to do. And thankfully, I would argue that we're the best in the world at that. And I realize I'm very biased when I make that statement. The second thing that we need to do is that as we do that again and again and again, the name and the brand of HBO Max will start to lead consumers to start that top of the funnel by actually turning on HBO Max. That's when we know we've done a really nice job, on an individual story basis, such that people decide, you know what, I just know I want to be entertained in a high quality way. I'm going to start by opening up HBO Max.
And Hulu, which you worked hard on, turned out pretty well. What did you learn from that?
You got to start with focusing on the customer, and then everything else is just details. And so our big lesson at Hulu back in 2007 was
focusing on the customer. Well, fancy that. That must be rocket science, right? It's not. Focusing on the customer. And I didn't know that Jason came from Hulu. Is it Hulu, right? That a very successful streaming platform now owned by Disney, and he was part of that as well. So it just goes to show you that Warner Media and AT&T have brought the best people to run HBO Max. HBO Max, if you talk to anyone from AT&T and Warner Media, are saying this is what we're focusing on now, more than anything, more than theatrically, more than anything else, because this is the company's future, and this is the future of entertainment, streaming. So this is why they've got really clever people like Jason coming in. This is why these clever people decided to allow Zack Snyder to finish up his Justice League movie and launch it and stream it on HBO Max, because by the time we're finished watching Zack Snyder's Justice League next year, everyone will be subscribing to HBO Max. And after that month's up, and they've seen Zack Snyder's Justice League umpteen times, they'll probably decide to stay because of the quality they've been watching, as well as Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Empower people and liberate people so that they can be entertained when, where, and how they want to. Don't expect them to show up in a certain room of the house on a certain day of the week at a certain time just so they can watch a program that they want. So that was probably the most important lesson, which is start with the consumer, and everything else is just details.
Jason, we've had this, unintended experiment going on with stay-at-home and people really intensively using all of their streaming services. What surprises or insights have you gotten in terms of consumption patterns, whether it's, comfort TV that's already out there versus new content, or anything that you think is going to be helpful to you in terms of figuring out what people want down the road?
I think probably one of the biggest
Hang on, it's buffering. A bit of a technical
important lesson, which is
a little bit of buffering on this video. We'll try and do it again. Right, where did we leave off? Let's have a look.
Want down the road.
I think probably one of the biggest insights is that brands, for lack of a better term, things that kind of aggregate people, bring people together, they matter more now than they ever did before. And I say that because in the world of the internet, it allows for just an explosion of content and an explosion of choice. That's really good on many levels in terms of, personally. But that said, it becomes very crowded and challenging. And so when you're able to offer big, noisy stories that people identify with and want to come together, even if it's virtually on the couch all over the world, that matters more. And so what we're seeing, if you take a look at our most viewed content, you do see properties that play very, very big. Friends is probably the perfect example of that, where it means something after all these years, in addition to obviously all our original series that are new releases.
Well, that was a very interesting interview, and I liked it a lot. Jason Kilar there, the president of HBO Max, I think that's his position. He's been brilliant since the launch of HBO Max. In fact, since the launch of Zack Snyder's Justice League, that announcement. Jason has been the whole brand of HBO Max, and he's great. He really is great. Mentioning Harry Potter quite a few times, so that kind of tells me they're going to kind of develop more and more straight to streaming HBO Max, movies and TV shows for Harry Potter, as well as DC and everything else they own. Basically, HBO Max is this company's most important asset there. He talks about brands. DC is a brand. Harry Potter is a brand. You understand all these things. Game of Thrones is a brand. All these brands are very important to them. Friends, they spoke about Friends as well. So what they're going to be doing is working very hard. And this, as DC fans, this is very vital and pivotal for us, because it means they're going to be doing lots of great, exciting DC content going straight to HBO Max. We've heard about Jeff Johns and Berlanti's Green Lantern TV series that's going to be thrown some heavy amount of green at it so it can be awesome and epic, and I can't wait to see from that. So what I get from that interview is that this is HBO Max is a work in progress. It's going to take a long time to reach the heights in success of Disney Plus, but they're happy to go on this journey because for them it's about artistic integrity. and getting this platform right. And for me, who's a consumer, that's the most important point of all. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about more delays for June and the movie and Wonder Woman 84. I don't believe that. I think both movies will be released internationally first and in the 100 or so cinemas available to America right now. I think that's the way we're going. I do not expect Wonder Woman 84 to be delayed, but keep it here on Big Mouth and the DCEU Daily, and I will keep you updated. Right. Justice League, Ray Fisher speaks out on Jeff Johns' behaviour during reshoots. Ray Fisher speaks out against Jeff Johns' behaviour during Justice League. Cyborg star Ray Fisher has spoken out about Jeff Johns' behaviour during the reshoots of Justice League and has revealed some startling details. I don't agree that they're startling, but we'll carry on. Earlier this year, Ray Fisher began to reveal some startling information regarding the reshoots of Justice League under Avengers director Joss Whedon, calling him unprofessional and abusive on set. He also listed producers John Berg and Jeff Johns as ones who enabled his behaviour. Unfortunately, due to NDAs, Ray Fisher had not been able to reveal more details about what... Sorry, should I say that again? Ray Fisher has not been able to reveal more details about just what went on behind the scenes of Justice League. Can I just say something, right? Ray, you're not telling us very much about what went on. And if your defence is because of the non-disclosure agreements, the NDAs, well, you're saying, it's justice over entertainment or whatever you're saying. Well, break the NDA, mate. Get sued. If you want to be a hero, if you want to be a trendsetter, if you want to change how artists and crew members are treated on the sets in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry, break your NDA and tell us what happened. And Ray, if you're not willing to tell us what actually happened, if you're not willing to be brave, right, truly brave, and break your NDAs and get sued and risk not being in the entertainment industry anymore, don't say anything. Because you've said you don't care about your career, you don't care about stardom, and you don't care about money. If this is true, Ray, break your NDA or stop talking about it because you're offering us very little. Ray Fisher has not been able to reveal more details about just what went on behind the scenes of Justice League. Now, however, the Cyborg star has revealed just how Jeff Johns dealt with the actor. In a recent tweet, Ray Fisher revealed just how Jeff Johns addressed his concerns during Justice League's reshoot and all but threatened the Cyborg star's career. During the LA reshoots for Justice League, Jeff Johns summoned me to his office to belittle and admonish me and my agents' attempts to take grievances up the proper chain of command. He then made a thinly veiled threat to my career. This behaviour cannot be accepted. Let's go to the tweet just in case it's a thread. No, it's not. So basically, he then made a thinly veiled threat to my career. This behaviour cannot continue. No, Ray. Let me explain to you. You're new to the entertainment industry in terms of filming and films, right? It's clear to me you're very naive how things work, right? Because let me just say something here, Ray. I love you, man. I loved you in Justice League. I think you did a great job with what you were given. We know the movie was a mess. We know the situation was stressful for everyone, including Joss Whedon, by the way. But he took on the gig. It was a very toxic gig from the beginning. And clearly, if it was up to Joss, he would have worked with a brand new cast if he got to make his own Justice League film. But he didn't. He was given other people's cast members. Look, a terrible, difficult situation for everyone involved. I think we should be clear about that. But again, Ray, you are offering very little information here. He summoned you to his office. He made thinly veiled threats. What are those threats, Ray? You want me, right? Listen, Ray, you want me to turn on a man, to shine my pitchforks, right? And, speak, negatively about him. Obviously, you want us to have a certain opinion of Jeff Johns, right? And most of the fandom will follow you on this, but I can't. Jeff Johns is someone I've been following his career ever since he worked with Richard Donner, right? I've seen his rise to fame. He worked to get everything he got. He's a very talented person, right? You want me to turn on this person? with no information, with no evidence or proof. This, what you're saying here, is so it's ridiculous. How can I have a position or an opinion when you're offering me very little? And I know you've got the non-disclosure agreements. You say you can't say anything, but actually, Ray, you can break those agreements. You're the one who said that you're willing to sacrifice your own career in the entertainment industry to let the truth out. But you're not letting truths out. Are you not telling us what happened? You're letting little things out, right, but you're not saying anything. So here's the thing, Ray. I love you. I can't wait to see your character story in Zack Snyder's Justice League. But sorry, I can't back you here. You're not giving me anything. I can't turn against a creative I've loved and adored and looked up to for so many years without you actually giving me anything. For example, if Gal Gadot comes out and says Joss Whedon locked her in a cupboard, right, because she wouldn't allow Ezra Miller to lay on top of her, then you've got something. Then I would be disgusted. Even though I believe at the end of the day, Gal Gadot should have allowed that, because I don't think it's a big deal. I genuinely don't. How many people touch each other and lay on top of each other? It was a gag. It may have been a little bit of sexist, but at the end of the day, when artists sign to a studio, they sign their lives and rights away. You have to do as you're told. Now, unless it's something so gross, so despicable, something so intolerable, then I understand. And it's like you, Ray, refusing to say booyah. At the end of the day, if the director wants you to say booyah, something that your character has said for generations, I don't see what your problem is. Before I defended you over it, but if this is what you're talking about, if this is why you were summoned to the office, right, it's partly your fault as well. Why wouldn't you say booyah? It doesn't make sense, Ray. Now, unless Jeff Johns and John Berg were racially attacking you, beating you up, locking you in cupboards, or if the other members of the crew and actors were treated this badly, I don't care. I don't have any sympathy for you. And do you know what, Ray? You're letting all this out just before Fandom. You're bringing this, I don't want to focus on this now. I want to focus on the trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League. The other day, we were shown a picture of Steppenwolf. It was brilliant. Do you know what, Ray? Unless you've actually got something to show us and tell us, can you just be positive, please? Because I'm getting fed up of this now. I'm bored. And, while I'm at it, and by the way, I love you, Ray Fisher. There is no disrespect going on here, but you must agree, Ray, you're not giving us anything to form an opinion. Tell us the real information. If you are so serious about risking and sacrificing your own career so people can see what goes on, I know what goes on, but for the outer public, right? And you want to change the way people are treated on set, right? Right? If that's what you want, you have to break your NDA and really show us that you're brave and you're serious about this, because this just looks like you want people to be talking about you, right? That's it. I'm sorry. It even seems to me that maybe you're trying to insinuate that maybe Jeff Johns was targeting you because you're a black person. I don't believe that Jeff Johns is a racist, by the way. But there you go. That's what I know about the man. But anyway, so finally today, I again want to talk about the DCEU Snyderverse fandom. Here's my card. I resign. Do you know what? When I was happiest? When I was just a fan of TV and movies, right? That's it. And I spoke about them. Now, I helped, like many, many hundreds of thousands of people, to get the Snyder Cut released by hashtagging, by talking about it. And then there was the amazing people who did billboards, messages across the air. And I love you all. But unfortunately, since this film has been announced to be happening, there's too many people who have crossed the line and taken it too far. And I'm not interested in you. And I know most of you have blocked me and left unsubscribe from my channel, and that's great. Congratulations, because I don't want to be dealing with people like you. So I'm no longer a part of this Snyderverse fan movement. No, I'm part of a fan of just admiring and loving DC TV shows, movies, a variety. My fandom goes beyond DC, but I love it, and I'm part of that fandom as well. So I'm no longer part of an echo chamber, and I'm no longer part of this movement, Because when you start threatening people because they disagree with you over animated Snyderverse content, when we are now telling people we shouldn't be doing a Twitter event on Friday about trying to get a Man of Steel 2 because you believe until after Justice League 400 we should never see Superman in his own movie again, I'm sorry. I can't have that. You can't tell me what to do. So I will be supporting that event on Friday, I think, because I want to see a Man of Steel 2. Yes, Batman vs. Superman was a sequel to Man of Steel. But I still want to see a film that deals with the Codex and what happens to those people who were sucked into the Phantom Zone. That's not been dealt with, and unless Zack Snyder deals with it in his Justice League movies, I want to see it in a Henry Cavill-starred Superman movie. And you can't tell me what to do, and you can't tell me what to think because I'm an individual. And that's the end of it. So I'm finished with this movement. I'm bored of this movement. This channel will never, ever be an echo chamber. Moving forward, I want this channel to be a place where I can talk about anything at any time. DC, Marvel, James Bond, V. Do you remember V, the sci-fi miniseries we all watched as kids right in the 80s? Anything. I basically want to talk about anything. Rick Mowlin, the New Statesman, anything. Anything I want to talk about. So maybe it's better that some people are going to be removing themselves from subscribing to this channel because I want to broaden this channel out. There'll still be a DCEU daily every day because I'm passionate about DC and Superman, right? I love Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel. I admire and respect Zack Snyder as a director, but I've had enough of the childishness and the toxicity of this fandom. And just because I'm leaving this fandom now, it doesn't mean I still don't have friends within it. I have some wonderful friends. But the scuzzballs who want to bully you because you're not part of the echo chamber, I'm nothing to do with you, and I'm not part of any movement you're a part of. I don't care how many subscribers and followers you've got. You know what's great about me? I don't need to be liked and loved because I am so vain and I love myself so much. That's enough for me, and the rest can be dislikes. That's fine. So I want you to comment down below about everything I've spoken about. Apologies for yesterday. No DCEU daily. I'll try and do as many daily as I can, but a bit difficult for the next couple of weeks. But we will try to give you as much content as possible. I want you to let me know how you feel about Jason Kilar's interview about HBO Max and how it's doing in the future. I'm very excited about what Jason had to say. I have a lot of time for Jason. And what do you think about my controversial opinion and reaction on Ray Fisher's comments about how Jeff Johns treated him? My opinion is he's given us very little information here. And I'm sorry, Ray, I am not going to start lighting the lanterns and sharpening the pitchforks because of what you've given us. Jeff Johns is a very talented man, but he was the wrong man to run DC Entertainment. He was the wrong man to be creative officer at DC. The pressure got too much for him, and everyone involved acted wrongly. But you know what? It's in the past, Ray. It's time to move on. Because if you think you're going to destroy Hollywood or change Hollywood by these little tidbits, I'm sorry, Ray. You're not taking the risks. You're not actually genuinely trying to risk your career, right, to change how Hollywood treat people. And Hollywood do treat people badly, and we know that. But if you really want to be a pioneer and a trendsetter for this, then I'm sorry, you have to break that non-disclosure agreement. Comment down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back hopefully tomorrow with more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.